Jabroni Talk, Felger and Wiggy here on the Fan Cred. If you're watching us on the Fan Cred, you can join us by hitting the fan line in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Treat it like a talk radio show, except we see your pretty face. If you're watching on the web, I guess we're on Facebook now or fancred.com, all that stuff. You got to download the app to be able to talk to us. I will also respond to the comments down below. So fire off comments. We'll answer them as we go. The program, as always, is brought to you by Original Grain, makers of the custom watches, the great custom watches, including the 1946 edition Red Sox watch that's made from 1946 Fenway seats, Ted Williams' historic year. You can pre-order yours now at originalgrain.com/Red Sox. Again, originalgrain.com. Check out that Red Sox souvenir product, and there's many others. It's a tremendous website. Wiggy, how you doing, kid?
What up, what up, what up?
Okay, here we go. Patriots, since the last time we talked, still have not addressed their receiver situation. You still concerned about it?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely – there's definitely issues as far as their depth there. You know, I've been hopping on it. I've been saying I'm a big advocate of sign Dez Bryant. I think that's what you need to do because right now when you look at it, you know, your number one receiver is going to be out for the first 4 weeks, and he's coming back off a knee injury. So Chris Hogan is your number one. He's not a true number one. We know what he can do. I think Philip Dorsett is going to get more action. But, yes, I need to see another legit body in there that I can feel confident about.
All right, let me throw some names at you that have been rumored to be available at one point or another. I don't know if they're still on the table. They were on the table, taken back, whether they're realistic or not. You know, just sort of leave that to the side and just tell me if you're on the Patriots, okay? And we'll get to Bryant last. We know how you feel about that. Golden Tate, that's one that's been rumored. Golden Tate, would you want him on the Patriots? You like him?
Yes, I'll take him all day long. All day long.
What do you like about him?
I think he's obviously he's a guy that can make plays. I mean, when you talk about the wide receiver position, you need somebody that can make plays. Another person Brady can rely on. I mean, because teams are going to be double teaming Gronkowski all day long. You got your running backs, but you need some guys that can make explosive plays, you know, and I think Golden Tate is the perfect guy to do that.
Oh, so what I like about him, I don't know how much of a playmaker he is. You know, he's not really a stretch the defense, take the top off the defense kind of guy, but physical, gets open, fights for the ball, catches the ball in traffic, tough. That he's my ideal kind of receiver. I so prefer the Golden Tate types over the Randy Moss types, if you will.
When I say playmaker, though, I mean a guy that could, like a Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman is a playmaker, even though he doesn't make these 40, 50-yard catches downfield. A guy that you can, where defensively teams got to say, okay, we need to know where Golden Tate is on the field, and that to me is a playmaker, a team that defensively you got to account for.
The trade that Mike Reese speculated was Malcolm Brown, first-round pick like 3-4 years ago, and Landon Roberts, your starting middle linebacker last year after Hightower got hurt. So Landon Roberts and Malcolm Brown for Golden Tate, who's under contract for only one more year. Do you do that, Wiggy?
I am. I'm going to call Uber right now so they can head to Gillette to pick those guys up. I do that. I do that all day long. I mean, at the end of the day, it's year to year with this, this team because of obviously the Belichick Brady stuff. So this year is what I'm focused on. So, yes, this guy is going to get you better this year. And moving forward, Malcolm Brown and Landon Roberts, it's not like those are guys that you're building on for the future.
Emmanuel Sanders in Denver. You like him?
I'll take him. We get to this point, Felger, and it's not about whether or not I think the guy is a playmaker, is this, that. When I look at their roster and you start throwing names at me and I say, okay, if he comes here, Emmanuel Sanders, he'll be the second best player on your wide receiver on your roster when Edelman gets back.
Okay. When Edelman comes back, maybe he's two. He's one right now in the first month.
Right, when Edelman gets back.
Randall Cobb in Green Bay.
Hey, come get Malcolm Brown and Landon Roberts all day long, man. I mean, we can do this all day long. I don't think there's one guy out there I'm not going to say yes to because –
Okay. Fine, let me give you one you might not. I say no to. Demaryius Thomas.
Hey, Uber, come get Malcolm. I'm telling you, Felger, you got to look at it like this.
Hey, Lyft, come get this guy and get him back out of here. I'm getting him back out of here. Demaryius Thomas is soft as puppy shit. I don't want that guy. He's not their kind of guy, Wiggy.
Listen, He might be, right? But the question, when you ask the question and you say, okay, on this team constructed on this depth chart at wide receiver, where would Demaryius Thomas fit in? Obviously, we know Julian's number one. Would you rather have Chris Hogan or Demaryius Thomas?
Chris Hogan.
See, I'm going to take Demaryius Thomas. I just think when you talk about skill set, he has more skill set than Chris Hogan. He has more skill set than hold on, because I know what you're going to say, than Dorsett. Whether or not he fits in the system, that's yet to be seen. But when you look at your depth, I would like to add this guy along with Chris Hogan and along with Dorsett.
Okay, I'm not into Demaryius Thomas. I just don't like him. I'm sorry. I don't think he fits what they do. I want tough, reliable guys who get open and catch the ball. I think you can shut Demaryius Thomas down. I think he's a problem. Just in terms of their offense, he's just not what they need. All they need is, remember Brandon LaFell came in here, caught 70 balls, just playing outside the numbers. Brandon Tate, not Golden Tate, Brandon Tate, or no, I'm sorry, Brandon Lloyd. Brandon Lloyd came here a couple of years ago, caught 70-something balls on the outside. That's all they need, guys like that.
I think that Demaryius Thomas could give you that.
Okay, I don't think he's going to grind it out on the outside. He wants to go up and get the ball. He wants to go deep. You can shut him down, Wiggy. You know that. So you're still on Dez. You understand Dez is not happening. They've had all this time here, all camp to go get him. He's for free. They don't have to give anything up. And they haven't done it. They haven't even brought him in for a visit. You have to understand, they don't want Dez Bryant. Do you accept that?
Well, maybe it's a money situation with Dez. I mean, there were reports out there that Cleveland offered him around $5 million a year where he could make up to $5 million. So who knows? Maybe it's a money thing. Maybe they're like, hey, Dez, we want you, but we only want you at $2 million. And Dez feels like, well, Cleveland offered me $5 million. I know, especially when you get closer to the season and teams get more and more desperate, I think Dez becomes more and more valuable. And so he might be sitting there going like, hey, listen, I don't need to play for $1 million or $2 million. I think ultimately I'm going to get paid. I'm just going to wait for that team to throw me the money that I'm looking for. And maybe the closer you get to the start of the regular season, the Patriots might go, you know what, this is something that we don't want to do, Dez, but here we're willing to pay you $4 million or $5 million. I don't know if that's the situation, but I think if I'm Dez and he didn't sign with Cleveland and there was an offer on the table, then that tells me he wants maybe more than what Cleveland offered, or B, he's holding out for a better situation and a better team.
Let me ask you your thoughts on the Shaq Mason contract. The guard got 5 years, $50 million, 23.5 guaranteed for a guard, Wiggy. A good player.
Right.
But a guard. How do you feel about that?
I mean, that's what the league is, man. And it's crazy because I think he's a good player, but I don't look at him as like a top 10 guard in the league, but he is, and I think it's so difficult nowadays.
Should that money be going to Shaq Mason or Dez Bryant? Should that money be going to Shaq Mason or should it be going to Tom Brady? Should it be going to Shaq Mason or Rob Gronkowski? Should it be going to Shaq Mason or a pass rusher or Malcolm Butler? Or, again, is he singularly worth it? We can debate it. Probably is. But wouldn't you rather have those resources elsewhere and just plug in a guy at guard?
Oh, of course, by far. I mean, like you brought up the Brady and the Gronkowski. I think without a doubt, more Gronkowski than Brady, because I'm not really sure how much money Brady really wants, or if that's the root of him, maybe doing an extension. But as far as Gronkowski, we know he wants to get paid. So yes, I'm like, hey, listen, get that money to Gronk and figure out another situation at God all day long.
Okay, a couple of comments. Al in the comments wants Emmanuel Sanders. He might be number one on my list too. Tate and Sanders, I think those guys are a cut above Randall Cobb. And like I said, I want nothing to do with Demaryius Thomas. And I think Dez Bryant ain't happening. Joe Smith in the comments says it's too late to add a wide receiver. And I want to ask you about this. It's a hard thing to do, Wiggy, on any team to sort of jump into an offense midstream and get on the same page with the quarterback and earn the quarterback's trust. I think it's harder here than most. And so I wonder about this too. Even if they get a deal, even if they get a guy that they like, aren't you leery of them able to pick it up midstream like this?
Well, that all depends on the guy, and
how hard is the offense? I mean, you played in several offenses. Is this one much harder than others?
No, I know it's not hard, but there's a lot of dumb players out there, so that's the problem. It is what it is. It's like there's a lot of dumb players, and we've seen that over the years with Chad Johnson. And to me, it's not difficult. I think the issue becomes what type of football player is he mentally? Because when you think about Rob Gronkowski, right? Everybody's like, oh, he's a big goof. He's not the smartest guy in the world, blah, blah, blah. But he knows the offense like the back of his hand. So I just think it depends on the player. The issue that you run into with Sanders, Cobb, and some of those other guys, and this is why maybe I might lean a little bit more towards Dez Bryant, is they're all the same position as Edelman. When you think about Emmanuel Sanders, Cobb, they're all Golden Tate. They're all slot receivers. So now when Edelman comes back, how do you then, put those guys in the offense? Because it's not easy, like you said, to learn the offense. Imagine if you got to take a guy who's been used to playing the slot receiver and say, hey, now you got to be an outside guy.
Fair point, Wiggy. Let's bring in our first guest, Nora Princiotti of the Boston Globe. I've never met Nora, and I've never had to pronounce that name. So as we pop her up, I'm going to ask her point blank if I pronounce that name properly, but she covers the Patriots. Is it Princiotti, Nora?
Princiotti. Yeah, you did it right the first time.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Just pick up on that, on the receiver situation. Scott Zolak said something today on the radio that he's convinced they're going to add a receiver. It's just a matter of who. And, in fact, he said Golden Tate will be the baseline, meaning it'll be Golden Tate or better. Are you similarly convinced that they're going to add something like that, like it's a lock?
So I think they will add someone, but I actually, from my educated guessing, it would be sort of the opposite. I can think of a couple instances.
So you're saying Zoe's full of crap? No, really?
That's what it sounds like.
So I think that if the Patriots do add a receiver, it's going to be one of these totally unsatisfying guys you've never heard of, basically maybe trade with a late round pick involved kind of thing. That's just based on a couple things that I've heard about, they talk to an agent for a guy that, is maybe fighting for a roster spot with another team, those types of things. If a Golden Tate type deal got made, if they made a trade like that, it would be a surprise to me. I think one of the things you have to consider is, how much money you're paying someone like that. If you're going to bring in a receiver who's already making more than Edelman, what that does to your room. I think that's something that Belichick's always been conscious of. So if Zoe's right, I will happily eat my words, but I would be surprised.
Okay. Something tells me I'm leaning towards Nora on this one. How about the Shaq Mason contract? Nora, back a million years ago when I covered the team and Bill would actually talk to me without, spitting on my face. He said guard is a position you can just sort of fill in. You shouldn't have to overpay for it. If you find a tough guy, a smart guy that you can coach up, play in a system, you should be able to get by, at minimal dollars at that position. And back in those days, they did it. Guys like, you played with, Wiggy, like Joe Andruzzi or Sally Asea or, even like a Mike Compton, they gave a little bit of money to, I guess. Gray Rugemer, like, they just found guys and plugged them in. How do you feel about devoting that kind of money to that position, Nora?
I'm fine with it. I actually thought that they might not pay him, that they might let him leave. And I think it's a really good thing that they did because, the cap keeps going up. There's more and more pressure coming from the interior as far as defenses are concerned. And if, particularly, as I said, with the rising cap, if the Patriots just keep doing this thing where they don't pay guys, eventually I was starting to feel like it's going to come back to bite them. And so I'm really happy to see them pay a guy who, has been on a pretty impressive trajectory as far as coming from a really, dissimilar offense in college to what he's gotten used to playing in with the Patriots. So, I think that's a good guy to devote money to, and I have no problem giving that kind of money to a guard. Quickly, that's what the market dictates.
Quickly, thank you, Nora. And stay there. George in the comments says, Wiggy, that the salary landscape has changed dramatically in the last 2 years, and the Patriots have not adapted. Look at Edelman, Amendola, and Gronk. At some point, you have to pay someone. They let Amendola go. Edelman underpaid. Gronk underpaid. Could be giving Mason money be part of a ploy to Belichick to keep the locker room? Like, we'll pay you, but we're not going to shut everybody out, and someone has to get paid. So players in there realize that, we will get paid. They're not going to shut everybody out.
Well, I think the thing is, and we've seen this with the offensive line, like we saw the same thing with Marcus Cannon when he paid him that money. And for some reason, Belichick will pay offensive linemen. He'll pay those guys. But as far as like your Edelmans, your Gronkowskis, he'll kind of like pay them, but they'll be like, wait a second, why ain't I, the highest paid tight end or receiver? But if you look at some of the linemen that he signed in the past, you'll be like, wait a second, he gave Marcus Cannon how much money? He gave Shaq. I like Shaq Mason. He gave him how much money? And so I think there's a little bit of that. If you're a lineman, you get paid. If you're another position, you might have to roll the dice.
Nora, we'll give you the final word on that.
This is just my speculation, but it could have something to do with the fact that on the offensive line, it's a little bit harder to just plug and play guys. Maybe right or wrong, Belichick and Josh McDaniels have the feeling that, they can find another receiver. They can teach someone the offense. They can, whether it's right or wrong, have someone develop chemistry with Brady, because as hard as it is to get into that circle of trust, you're still having the advantage of playing with a great quarterback. Whereas on the offensive line, you see the potential for, with CUNY, with David Andrews, having a group here that could be together for a long time along the offensive line where continuity does tend to be really beneficial.
Nora, 30 seconds before we let you go. Give me a surprise cut this week.
Ooh, maybe Jason McCourty.
Bad sign. Wiggy, wouldn't you agree? Nora, we'll let you go on that note. Thank you so much for taking the time. We'll read your stuff in the Globe.
Absolutely.
Okay, Nora Princiotti there of the Boston Globe. When they moved Jason McCourty to safety late in that game, Wiggy, bad sign or good sign for Jason McCourty?
Bad sign. When you playing into the fourth quarter in any preseason game, it ain't a good sign. Especially when you're a veteran. Unless you're a rookie, it's not a good sign at all. And if you play in the fourth preseason game, you might as well go ahead and pack the U-Haul and have that thing ready to go as soon as you walk out of the stadium. Especially when you're a veteran in his age and how long he's been in the league. Ultimately, a guy like that should be ultimately done. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I kind of look at it like this. Hey, you knew that coming in. We talked about this last week when you asked me, and I said, I'm not even sure if Eric Decker makes the team. And I think he knew, hey, I ain't going to make the squad. I'm just going to retire.
Okay, a couple more things here, Wig, before we get to the 5 questions, and that is this debate came up on the radio the other day from a caller. Just want your input. It's sort of an interesting question. Who would you rather have? What combination would you rather have right now? Belichick and Garoppolo or Brady and Josh McDaniels?
Brady and Josh McDaniels.
Why?
Okay. Because, listen, that's always going to be the biggest debate. Who's more valuable, Brady or Belichick, right? I look at it like this. I think when you talk about having the greatest quarterback of all time, and the coach might not be, he might not be the greatest coach, but McDaniels is a good coach. Ultimately, it's the guy on the field. And to me, when you got Tom Brady and he's on the field, he's more valuable than the coach that's standing on the sideline. And that's kind of the way I see it. And so I always feel like Brady has that edge as far as value because he's the guy on the field. He's the guy that throws the football. He's the guy that gets these guys into place. He's the guy that reads and makes the decisions. So at the end of the day, give me Brady and McDaniels rather than Belichick and Garoppolo because I don't know what Garoppolo is going to be. I think Brady can go to any other team and they would be a Super Bowl team. I can't say that for Belichick if he went to a team that like the Jets and had no quarterback.
How do you feel about Josh?
I think Josh is a good coach. I think with him, he needs that quarterback. He needs that guy. We've seen the struggles in Denver, but he had Jay Cutler, so to me, he needs that guy. And when you talk about Brady, that's that guy. I think he can get the job done, but it's going to be about, does he have the guy at quarterback? He's very similar to like a John Gruden. What type of player you have at quarterback? If you got a decent enough quarterback, Gruden can work with you.
John in the comments goes off the grid and says, am I crazy for saying McDaniels and Garoppolo? Yes, I think you probably are. This year wouldn't want either Brady or Belichick. Last one before we get to 5 questions. How would you feel about an 18-game schedule? Wiggy, this has come back up. It always comes back up. As a player, would you take it? Would you accept it? What would you trade for it if you were a player, etc.? As a fan, do you want it?
Very simple to me. I would take it. Get rid of the 2 preseason games. You want to add 2 more games, I'll take it because that means more money. More money.
So that's it. Trade a higher salary for 2 more games, and you would do it. Do you think most players would do it?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. They would definitely be like, hey, where do I sign? Give me the extra 2 games because that means a little bit more money. Like I said, eliminate 2 of those preseason games, and I'm good.
Okay. The idea, though, would not to put those regular season games in August. You still start the weekend after Labor Day, and you just stretch it 2 weeks back into the winter, which gives us a Super Bowl on President's Day weekend, which is what the league and a lot of us has always wanted for that Super Bowl Monday to be a holiday, right? We don't have to show up to work on Monday. You put it on President's Weekend, there you go. You put it on the Sunday of President's Weekend, and Problem solved. There it goes. All right, 5 questions with Wiggy. This is where we wrap it up every week. 5 quick questions, 5 quick answers. We'll take a fan question as well. You want to hit the fan line. Ask Wiggy whatever you want about duck-sized horses and horse-sized ducks and all of that crap. We just talked about coaches. Wiggy, who was the second best coach you ever played for?
Well, it's very difficult because it's really 1A. It's like 1A because I played for Parcells. So he might be like the second best coach I played for with Belichick.
Hold on. Parcells or Belichick?
Wow.
Oh, you're thinking about it. I love it. You might take Parcells over Belichick.
I might because of his personality. His personality, like they're very similar in coaching styles as far as their philosophies. But Bill has, Parcells has more of that like outgoing, like talk.
He has a personality.
Like, he's like the talk shit type of personality. And now I can work well with either one, but I think I might lean towards Parcells. But either way, either way, you can't go wrong with one of those two.
So it's Parcells 1, Belichick 2, or vice versa. Who would be third on the list? Just because I wasn't expecting Parcells.
Third on my list that I played with.
Did you have one? I mean, was there anyone else that you played? Was it who was in Minnesota?
Dungy. I played with him with the Colts. So, but
Dungy.
Yeah, Dungy 3.
Okay, who was the worst?
Brad Childress. He was a fucking idiot. Let's be honest. But he didn't have a clue what he was doing. You know, he was like a wannabe Andy Reid. It just offensively, it was like, you know what? Hey, we got small running backs, but we're going to try to run them up the middle because that's what the West Coast offense calls for. Hey, listen, I know you're a 4-8 guy, but you need to be fast. So it wasn't like where Belichick kind of used your talent and put you in a good position. It was like you got to fit the West Coast offense, even though it didn't work out.
Question number 3. Bruins camp is coming up here in the next week or two. Who is the single most important player on the roster heading into the year?
Pasta. Without a shadow of a doubt, Pasta's the most important player because what's been the Bruins' biggest problem when they get to the postseason?
Secondary scoring.
Right. Being able to score, and I think he's supposed to be your best scorer, and to me, he's got to be the guy that carries the team in scoring. He's got to be that guy that fills that void for you. And you know he's going to be able to put the puck in the net. They just don't have that.
Well, they want to play him on the second line. If you read Bruce Cassidy's comments this offseason, they want someone to emerge to play with Marchand and Bergeron, and they want to give Pasternak to Krejci. When you say what was the biggest problem, it was secondary scoring. The Marchand line scored. The Bergeron line scored their face-off in the postseason. They couldn't get any production from anyone else. And so that's a good one. I go McAvoy. I think, in this day and age in the league, you got to have that number one defenseman, guy that moves the puck, carries the offense, that whole thing. Bruins don't have anyone close to that. McAvoy projects as that. To me, it's McAvoy. If he's not your number 1D by the end of the year, something went wrong.
I already told you that there is the cupboard is overflowing in Nashville with defensemen. They need to move one of those defensemen, and they got a pretty good puck-moving defenseman in Nashville that wears number 76. So
Pernell Carl. Yes, let me guess. Okay. Question number 2. It's the Wiggy text page of the day. He sends me something, says what's going on in his world, and I have to translate. I think I actually might know this one.
Okay.
This one says, yo, big man needs to get the bag. Are you telling me Rob Gronkowski needs to get paid?
You're right on, Felger. Hey.
Bag of money. Yo, bag of money. See, we talk about bags of money in Wellesley.
There you go. You're starting to, you're starting to add a little flavor to yourself. You know what I mean? You're not the square. You're still a square, but you're starting to add a little bit. Yeah, all day long. Especially, the reason why I say this, especially with Odell Beckham just getting paid like he got paid, and they always talk about Shaq Mason. If you're Rob Gronkowski, you got to be sitting there thinking, man, like, yo, I'm the most dominant offensive player in the league next to Tom Brady. I need to be getting paid like that. That's what. And if I'm the Pats, they need to rip his contract up and give him a 3-year deal, guaranteed money, and pay this man to make him happy.
Okay, let's take a fan question. Tommy in Braintree. Tommy in Braintree is going to ask the 5th and final question for Wiggy here in 5 questions. We can always turn it over to a fan. Don't be afraid to be too dumb, because Wiggy's best material comes with the dumber the question, the better the answer. In other words, go ahead, Tommy.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm actually out here in Hollywood right now. Curious to know what your favorite movies of 2018 have been so far.
Thank you. We'll answer. Go ahead, Wig.
Normally I would lean with my boy Denzel, but I saw The Equalizer 2 and it was trash. So my favorite movie of 2018 got to be my boy T'Challa. Black Panther.
What are you talking? Oh, Black Panther. Keep going.
Black Panther, baby. That was legit. Go check it out, man. You ain't seen it, have you?
Is it legit just because it's Afrocentric and it plays to your desires, or was it a legit good movie?
It's legit for that, but it's also a good movie. Make sure you go check it out. Because I'm big into our whole comic book stuff and all that.
Okay. Let's grab one more guest. He just popped on late here. It's Joon Lee of Bleacher Report. He wrote the big Jimmy Garoppolo piece heading into this season that everyone's talking about. And, I asked before to Wiggy, Joon, who would you rather have, Belichick and Garoppolo or Brady and Josh McDaniels? If, you had one pairing there, who would you take and why?
I would take Belichick and Garoppolo. Like, those guys really seem to have connection. If you just see, Belichick texting Garoppolo, after he's gone to San Francisco, I mean, Jimmy really speaks highly of his time with Bill Belichick, and I think that combination would have set the Patriots up for success for the next 10 years.
Joon, give me a prediction for San Francisco this year.
I think they end up being like a fringe playoff team, but I think that Jimmy kind of shows flashes and there's stuff to build on moving forward.
Okay. How they looked in the preseason? What sort of indication do you have of what they're going to be this year?
They still don't have a ton of offensive weapons around Jimmy, but I think the combination of Kyle Shanahan's offensive scheme with Jimmy Garoppolo's kind of presence in the pocket and his quick playmaking ability, I think they're going to be set up to be better than I think a lot of people think.
That's right. Who's their number one receiver? Is Goodwin still there?
Goodwin's still their number one receiver, which is kind of the precarious situation when you consider that he's not necessarily the greatest hands despite all the speed that he brings to the table.
Exactly. All right. Joon, thanks for joining us real quick.
Yeah, no problem.
What? That's why I would take Brady, because he just made the point that they don't have the weapons. Think about how many years you've seen Brady be successful without weapons, right? So when you got to start questioning the quarterback and saying, oh, he might not have the greatest year because he doesn't have the weapons, then that to me says you already got a built-in excuse. Brady has done it year in and year out with guys that weren't considered the best players at the skill position. That's why I take Brady.
Go ahead, Jim. Final word, Jim.
I think mostly, though, that Jimmy's skill set is, we saw a lot of kind of the raw ability that Jimmy had last year. I think he's going to continue to build on that, but I'm not expecting him to be a top 5 quarterback out of the gate. He's his first full season starting at the NFL level. And so, for me, it's a lot of the intangible stuff that, the Niners really love his leadership in the locker room and the huddle. And you just want to kind of see progressive building. I don't expect him to be a top 5 quarterback out of the gate, but I think he has all the tools to become one eventually.
Okay, Joon Lee, Bleacher Report. Thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Wiggy, you think he's flat out going to stink? This is the last thing.
I think he's going to fall. I think it's going to be like, oh, damn, that's Garoppolo, because defensively people are going to start learning about him. We've seen this with every quarterback that has done this, not just with the Patriots, but in the NFL. Think about Max Schwab. Looks great when he comes in as the backup 4, 5, 6 games. We've seen it with Matt Flynn with the Green Bay Packers. We've seen those quarterbacks over and over. The list goes on and on of quarterbacks who came in as backups, went 4, 5, 6-0, got big money, went elsewhere with Orlowski, and then went to other teams and became the guy. Defensively, people got hip to them, and then boop, they fall off the map. Mark my words, in 2 years, Garoppolo, they'll be looking for a new home for him to trade him.
I hope you're wrong. Better story if he's good. Thanks, Wiggy. We'll catch you next week.
All right.
Bye.
Later.